Hello and welcome to week 7 of NMP 650, Leading Change in Nonprofit Organizations. I have just a few things to say to you. I'm sorry, at the beginning of this week, I'm sorry that it's taken me so long to get this recording done. I hope you all had a very full weekend, and I see that you've all turned in your lit reviews, and there's already been some conversation in the discussions about how fried your brains are at this point. So take a deep breath. We're in week 7 now, so there's only 2 more weeks left in 650, and things are moving pretty quickly. So just take a deep breath and relax into it, and I think you'll be fine. This week, we're going to be reading about and talking about the last of Bowman and Deal's 4 frameworks, the symbolic frame. I personally work in an arts organization, so this particular frame is near and dear to my heart, and I love this week's discussions particularly. But some students find the symbolic frame a little difficult to come to terms with. Some students find it a little waffly, a little gray and fuzzy, maybe difficult to. If you're really a structural frame person, then the symbolic frame is going to be a little bit difficult for you, but hang with it because it's very important. Again, as we've talked about before, having a real sense of all 4 of these frames will be very important to you as leaders in nonprofit organizations moving forward, so that you can begin to understand which parts of the organization apply under which framework, and how best to approach a certain problem or group of problems or people within your organization. So the symbolic frame really is more about the essence of the organization. We're all social animals, and we all want to belong. We all want to have that sense of belonging to a group, to an organization, and we want to believe that we are participating in something that is greater than ourselves, and that we will have an impact on something that is greater than ourselves. So, in other words, it's about the larger purpose of the organization. Another way to think about that is what makes you want to get up early in the morning and go to work? What makes you want to stay late and finish that project? What makes you want to work in the evening to make sure that you have a project completed or that paper graded? So it's really about purpose, and it's really about that larger purpose that really drives people's participation or wanting to participate, believing that their work has impact and that they are participating in something that is larger than themselves. And the way that plays out in organizations, as Bowman and Deal speak about, is through ritual, through stories, through ceremonies. Those are ways in which the abstract nature of the symbolic frame can be made a little more concrete and available to those that you're working with, or those for whom you are working. And there's also those things are a way in which there needs to be congruity between the very symbolic nature of the organization and how that plays out in the day-to-day operations of that organization. Key, very key. And sometimes there's a disconnect between the symbolic nature of the organization and the day-to-day operations, and that's where things begin to have issues or come apart at the seams. And in some cases it leads to cynicism. And that kind of cynicism you begin to see in terms of lack of motivation at the staff level, for example. And that's always dangerous, particularly in an organization whose framework is very symbolically based. Again, it's all about what is the reason that people want to participate, want to be a donor, want to volunteer, want to work on the staff. They want to be a part of the work that that organization is doing because they feel that it's larger than the whole, greater than the sum of its parts. So that's really about the symbolic frame, and I look forward to our discussions in this week 7 about that. I also look forward to my opportunity once again to talk with each of you this week. I see that you've all signed up for a time starting tomorrow. I'm recording this on Monday night, so those conversations will begin tomorrow. And I'm really looking forward to that, to see where you are, where your struggles are, how you feel you're doing coming into the last 2 weeks of 650. Your assignment for this week is to complete that outline of your capstone paper. Now I want to stress that I understand that this will be a rough draft, particularly in the final 3 sections of your outline, that this is really not about submitting a finished final outline for your capstone paper. This is really about your understanding of where you are in the process, what you've accomplished, the pieces of information that you have, where your thinking is, where you're headed, and what you still need to do. So in general, my sense is that of the 9 components of the outline, again, I refer you to that outline of the capstone paper in which each of these 9 sections are outlined there. The first 6 you should have a pretty good handle on, most of them. Certainly you'll have a handle on the title. The title is essentially your research question, and from that will flow your abstract. Now your abstract is not your introduction. Your abstract will eventually be the summation in a very few sentences of the totality of your paper and your research. In your introduction is where you're going to talk about what your research question is, frame the discussion, and frame why it's important. What is the value of this research? Why are you doing it? And what do you hope that the outcome will, the importance of the outcome, what do you hope it will be? Followed by your literature review, which you've all taken a first stab at and turned in. Hopefully that the lit reviews that you've turned in are at a stage that you will not have too much more work to do on them, and that will be a real key piece of your capstone paper that you'll be able to plug in there. Then you're coming to your analysis and your frameworks, and this section of your paper is where you're going to decide which of the frameworks you're going to use in order to understand the data that you're getting from your research, from your literature, and how you're going to analyze it and therefore come to some eventual conclusions, recommendations. Also your methodology, how you're going to gather that information. If you're doing a survey, for example, how you're going to gather it and how you're going to analyze it. Those are the first 6 sections, and those should all be relatively clear to you, if not in final detail, at least pretty clear so that you know where you're headed. The final 3, which are results, and then your discussion and of your results and your conclusion and recommendations. Those I expect in your outline to be a fairly broad brush stroke because you haven't done the analysis yet. So you wouldn't have your conclusion yet. But in general, to repeat, this assignment is really to give you a sense in terms of each of these 9 pieces of the capstone paper, each element, where you are with each one of them, and you should be fairly far along in the first 2/3 of them. So if you're not, then that will be part of our conversation this week. Then looking forward, the 8th week, next week, There will be no formal assignment. There will be discussion forums, but there will be no formal assignment because I want you to use next week to do some whatever tweaking is necessary on the key elements of the assignments that we have worked on in 650. That would be the portion of your e-portfolio excluding the narrative essay, the literature review, and the outline. Those three things you will be carrying forward into 670 with Sarah Nathan. And so you want to have those three key pieces ready to rock and roll when you begin week 1 of 670, so that that transition is seamless and that you're really ready to begin the hard work of actually putting the pieces together and writing your capstone research, your paper, and your narrative essay. So that's really about it for week 7. Call with questions, email with questions, or put them in the assignment section, the assignment question section. I do try to get to them fairly quickly, and I look forward to speaking with each and every one of you. You're all doing great, and I'm really enjoying your conversations in the discussion forums. They're very rich conversations, and you seem to be getting a lot from each other and from the texts as well. So I'm really looking forward to the symbolic framework conversations, and we'll see you online. Thanks.